Hey everybody, this is ScrapComputer here. I'm just going to be covering Masteries and the logic behind choosing each of them, and explaining why we have so-called standard pages, as well as the champions that you should change your Masteries for. If you simply fill in your Mastery pages from other people's guides or pro room pages or whatever, without knowing why, take a look at this, it will help you. But if you already know Mastery choices in detail, please click the time link in the description where I go over a summary of all the layouts I'm about to mention. I just felt I had to put this warning in again. This video is essentially the most boring video I've ever done. If you're not interested in Mastery choices and you have, not saying you're unintelligent, but you have a low attention span to such things that aren't entertaining and flying about the screen, please click this summary, please, because I just go over it within 2 minutes, which is quite quick for those of you that just want the setups and their fundamental summaries. That's it, sorry guys. First of all, I'll go over the concept of Masteries before my rune guide. Now, Masteries are cut up into 3 separate trees: offensive tree, defensive tree, and utility tree. You must pick what tree you want depending on your playstyle. You can only main one tree, as it takes 21 points to get to the bottom of any of those aforementioned trees. I'll explain them all now so you can choose for yourself and simply not take my word for it or any others on the quote-unquote most effective tree layout. People play differently, remember that, and each champion requires different things. Note that I'm not going to mention the exact names of the mastery trees, just their attributes. I feel this helps with the literal understanding of it. Aggressive tree and 21 points. This is the only static tree you have with the AD carry. They always have it and it won't ever change. This is due to it being the best in-game damage dealer. There are other variations of a tree that don't have this, but I don't feel they're as effective. You'll know why by the end of this section. Now let's take a look at where and why 21 of your hard-earned points and valuable points are going into it. Well, first of all, let's take a look at the first line. We have lower cooldowns and aggressive summoners, attack speed % increase, cooldown reduction % increase, and Butcher, which provides more damage to minions and monsters. We only grab the points in this stuff that will do the most damage or reap the most benefits, therefore the attack speed. The cooldown would be nice, but we're not ability reliant and we could use the points in other places more effectively. An AD carry should not be running aggressive summoners in general anyway, so I leave out a point in this as well. Butcher as well, being a small waste, as we are not a jungler and we don't need quick minion clear start game, as well as the crap scaling for it. On the next line we have attack damage per level, ability per level, and damage to towers increased by 5%. Now we only grab the points in the AD per level. We don't really need that extra damage to turrets unless you're going a split comp or the Korean push meta. If so, please do grab it. Otherwise, we're leaving it alone along with that ability power we don't really need because most of our abilities aren't going to be scaling that well off AP anyway. Next line holds extra damage % increase, armor penetration % increase, and magic penetration % increase. Since we want maximum damage output, we're going to grab 3 points into that extra damage %, and of course the armor pen for even more damage. For obvious reasons, we're ignoring the magic pen. We typically have little to no magic abilities. The next line possesses critical chance % increase, base attack damage increase, base ability power increase, and ability power into attack damage. Again, damage is OP, so we grab the critical chance and the attack damage and get the hell out of there. We leave the rest. We don't need the AP. Even if you're an AP burster like Trist, you want to focus your auto attacks and in-game skillings. The ability power would be wasted in-game. We don't want this. On the next line's where the pain begins. We have 10% attack speed increase for 2 seconds after critting, flat armor pen increase, and ability power % increase. We'll also be critting a lot with our PD&I, so we need to grab that attack speed increase after critting. It's actually pretty OP endgame, so yoink, we take that. And with the armor pen, again, we don't like tanks and we want to shred them as much as possible, so we obtain that too. In addition, we have no ability power, so what exactly are we scaling here? You see what I mean now when I say there's no need for AP the whole way up the tree? If we wanted this scaling to work, we would have to grab all the points in ability power as well as having AP runes in the first place, and not be able to work on our auto attack damage the whole way up the tree. And as an AD carry, why would you be using abilities that much anyway, besides start game? We need to auto attack, not cast. You see now why you can't have everything you want and you can only have one or the other, not both. The final line you must get a point in. This allows 5% increased damage to a target below 50% HP. This is massive, seriously. If you normally crit the AP carry for 500 damage, you're then doing 525. Doesn't sound like much on paper, but considering that's 2.5 Doran's blades, or half a BF, you think again. As you can see, this is the best in-game damage scaling outcome that you can have. This is why it's standard for all AD carries in the aggressive tree anyway. The AD carry role is based around in-game ridiculousness. You need to scale well, this path ensures it. In addition, all of the armor pen means that you can hold off getting armor pen for a while. Otherwise, armor would be extremely OP as we could not counter at start game and would be doing no damage to tanks at all. With this we have 8% armor penetration plus 5 flat pen, with the 8% having great endgame scaling and the 5 pen helping out start game. First variation, 2109, based on utility. Now you hear me and many others mention the standard 2109 in quotes. I'll go over the logic of this and now why I don't think it should be the typical standard by any means. 21 the aggressive tree, already explained. Okay, now I'm going to explain the 9 points of utility. Now in the first line of the utility tree we have cooldown reduction on utility based summoner spells, example flash, movement speed percentage buff when out of combat, mana regain per second, and finally reduction to the recall cast time. Now what are we going to get the points in? Well, first of all we're going to grab a point in the flash cooldown reduction. This is to ensure your escape is off cooldown as much as possible. We then should grab 3 points in the mana regain, just to sustain your mana pull in the middle of the lane. This is pretty standard and self-explanatory. And finally, we're going to grab a point in recall, purely because we need an additional point to gain access to the spell vamp later. This is also helpful to get back. I don't pick the movement speed buff when you're out of combat because as an AD carry, you aren't roaming and typically auto-attacking the entire time, so you won't really reap its benefit. The second line holds, summoner spell cooldown reduction, vision wards range increase, mana per level, and activatable items cooldown reduction. The only thing useful is the summoner spell cooldown reduction, so we grab 3 points into it. The rest, the vision ward range increase, not really, the mana per level, and the activatable items cooldown reduction, we don't need any of this stuff. Again, on the next line we want to grab the most important goods of all. It has gold per 10 increase, buff duration increase, lifesteal, and the infamous biscuit. Or just biscuit. The lifesteal and spell vamp of 1% is the only real viable option for an AD carry, as we can only unfortunately grab a single point in this line as we've ran out. The rest of it is completely useless compared to the lifesteal. Extra gold per second, nope, we already make enough. Neutral buff duration by 20%, we won't be buffed for that much of the game, but it is a viable pick if you really want it. For me it's useful, but not as much as that 1% lifesteal. And last but not least, the infamous biscuit, well, the infamous biscuit is just kinda not worth it at all. That's the 2109 explained. I'm now going to go over the variations of the latter two trees that you can have. Second variation, 2190, defensive. 21 the aggressive tree, again, already been explained. The second variation of your mastery tree is 2190. This focuses on a static defense rather than the utility which you've seen before, which only helps by ensuring that your flash and other summoner spells are off cooldown. Also, the 2190 assists in trading in your lane as it figuratively gives you a small shield in your lane compared to other AD carries, who typically, non-thinking, run their points into utility. Now when looking into the defensive tree we initially see defensive summoner spell cooldown reduction, HP regain increase, HP per level, and reduction taken from monsters. So we grab some points in the health per level, we get a full 4 points in this, the rest we will ignore. Health regain simply isn't that useful. Monsters should not be attacking you anyway, and we also ignore the cooldown on the defensive summoners, so we can grab a point into the HP or tenacity later, which for me proves a lot more useful in general. The next line we have a difficult decision to make. We have 4 points to use and only armor and magic resist to choose from, and we can only put 3 points into one of them. Now depending on who you are and who you're versus, this is going to change. If versus a predominantly magic poke based bot lane, say Sona and Tristana, get the magic resist with 3 points into it and 1 into the armor. If versus a heavy poke AD lane such as Caitlyn, grab 3 points into the armor and 1 into the magic resist. If you have versus split damage, you decide who's more of a threat. I can't decide this for you, sorry. Now in the final line we have another decision to make. Do we put the points into the additional 30 HP or the additional 7.5% tenacity? If they are a bursty bot lane, get the HP. If versus a heavy CC based team, pick that tenacity, pretty simple. As you can see, there are a few variations in the tree. People, honestly, please stop picking statically, think, it really helps. Third variation, 21-4-5, defensive mana. 21 on the aggressive tree, again and again, already explained. This third variation is a mix of the defensive tree and the utility tree. This gives you a bit more spammability as well as some tankiness. In the defensive tree we grab the HP per level with 4 points. We then move on to the utility based tree and grab 3 points into the mana regain. This is good for your casters like Ezreal. We then grab an additional point into the flash cooldown reduction. We then finish up by grabbing a point into the percentage reduction of summoner spells. Fourth variation, 21-8-1, defensive cooldown. This is exactly the same as the second defensive route, But instead of the tenacity and health in the defensive tree, we grab a point into the utility tree, and we put our flash cooldowns on it. This means we reap the benefits of a lower cooldown flash, if only by a bit, and of course keeping our defensive properties. Fifth variation, 21-1-8 utility cooldown. This is the same as the second variation, except we take a single point away from the spell vamp and put it into our defensive summoner spell cooldown reduction. This allows us to have summoner spells up a lot of the time. This is awesome for carries like Ashe who are running complete defensive spells and need these spells up a ton of the time as they have no real hard escape themselves. So if you run Flash Barrier, please get this. Mastery Summary. Now I'll go over a summary of all of them and explain what they specialise in and what they're best at doing, in addition to the best AD carry for them. First variation, Utility. This variation is the so-called standard variation. This focuses all of our points into our utility tree to lower our summoner spell cooldowns by 10% and a further 15 seconds on our flash. So on our flash, the regular cooldown is 300 seconds. With the 10% cooldown reduction, that's reduced to 270 seconds. We then subtract the flat 15 seconds, which makes it 255 seconds. Additionally, you retain the lifesteal as well, which will help you sustain and scales awesomely endgame. This is one of the main reasons this tree is 9 in it. As you can see, the benefits are lower cooldown reduction for your summoner spells and the lifesteal. These both scale excellently, and you can generally use it for all AD carries, as we are always looking for better ways to scale. The great thing about this, and the reason it is standard, is because it works on everyone. Second variation, Defensive. This variation is another I would call standard, which is the 21-9-0 on defensive, but sees nowhere near as much play as variation 1 for some reason. This variation provides you with HP, armor, magic resist, and tenacity or more HP. This does not scale just as hard as the other tree, but it is second best without a doubt in my opinion. But the reason I made this page is not for its endgame scalings, I pick it for lane dominance and mid-game safety. This variation provides you with a lot of power in lane, and nullifies a lot of poke versus the enemy. 5 magic resist and 2 armor start game is game changing in an all-in. Or if you're simply getting poked, it's still useful and will remain useful all game. Although it won't scale damage wise, that 7.5% tenacity is fantastic versus heavy CC teams. In summary, this is stronger in lane and fantastic endgame, but your summoner spell times are going to be a little higher, 45 seconds extra on your flash to be exact. This again works versus poke lanes and can work on any AD carry. Although if the carry has no escape and you're bad at positioning, get the 21-09 for those summoner spell cooldowns. In addition, it is also good on strong/weak start game carries who could do with the extra defensive abilities for protection or aggression respectively. Third variation, Defensive Mana. This variation is good with AD carry ability reliant bot lanes like Ezreal. It provides him with much needed mana regain in the utility tree as well as 15 seconds off his cooldown. You also need to get that endgame HP scaling in the defensive tree. Overall, if you're spell reliant and having troubles with your mana pool, this is the choice for you. Fourth variation, Defensive Cooldown. This variation allows us to keep our laning tankiness by having all of our defensive traits besides the HP or tenacity choice. Instead, we use a point in the utility tree to get the 15 seconds off our flash. This is great for giving us that little edge in our flash removed, while still holding lane tankiness and HP skillings. This can again work for any AD carry, but is more geared towards the non-escape based AD carries who want their flash up. Fifth variation, Utility and Cooldown. This final variation provides the player with all of the normal utility such as lower summoner cooldowns and mana. We stack this off by losing our precious lifesteal and replacing it with a point in the defensive tree for reducing defensive summoner spell cooldowns. This will stack with the utility tree 10% reduction as well. This is why I'm curious nobody ever uses this beside myself, at least none I've ever seen. This is perfect for running say Barrier and Flash. Their cooldowns will be run down massively and is perfect versus non-escape based carries who run Barrier. And even if you have escape, it still works awesomely if you're still using the defensive like Barrier or Heal. Well, that's it for my 5 main Mastery Tree setups, but don't take my word for it, customize them to your needs if you disagree with something I've done. Please feel free to change them yourselves. And AD carry masteries are quite static, but hopefully have opened your eyes far beyond the narrow-minded view of the 2109, which essentially everyone seems to get. I just wanted to change this to supplement you guys with more options. I apologise that this video was not that entertaining. There's nothing I can do, even I can't make mastery setups fun.